The Oilers have found a hidden gem as we have several updates on Oiler prospects in the organization. Who's coming, who's going, a lot of news to talk about today here on the channel. Hope everybody is currently enjoying their Saturday. It's a weekend in the summer, folks. Doesn't get any better than that, and it doesn't get any better than being so close to 3,700 subscribers. We are 15 away on the road to 4,000, so if you haven't done so already, folks, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below as we will have you covered with any and all Oiler news about, prospects, the actual team itself during the summer. So stay tuned here to the channel. But without further ado, folks, let's get cracking on this Oiler prospect pool, shall we? With Back to the Future. Now, back in April, the Oilers are trying to get a entry-level deal signed for Maxim Berezkin of the KHL, currently playing with Locomotive in the KHL. Stan Bowman, the rest of the Oilers organization and the management team were trying to get something done with him, saying, we've been in touch with his representatives, and when his season finished, we're going to buckle down on that. We pay close attention. Been impressed with him. He's a little bit older, good-sized kid, skilled, makes plays, comfortable with the puck, and you can never have too many of those guys. Just taking a look at his stats here. I mean, 6'4", 211, 23 years of age. I mean, this is what the Oilers need in their top six. They need a big, burly power forward that they can slot next to, a guy like, Connor McDavid. We all saw, Patrick Maroon next to Connor McDavid, with a career year next to Leon Draisaitl, but pretty much you can slot him anywhere in that Oiler top six, and he will not look out of place. Here you can see he's spent nearly his entire career over in Russia there, playing with Yaroslavl in the KHL, with 1 year with Perkamgi in the Russian VHL. If I butchered that pronunciation, I apologize. But yeah, spent 9 games with them. But you can see there his most recent season, 66 games played in the regular season, 15 goals, 27 assists for 42 points, and he piled that on in the playoffs, in the Gagarin Cup playoffs over in the KHL with 14 points in 21 games, and he's showing off how clutch he can be. He's a big boy, but he can shoot the puck there. He's had multiple overtime winners in that playoffs. So with an ice-cold double OT game winner by Maxim Berezkin. I've seen it spelled differently. Both are correct. It's just, a matter of the translation there from Russian to English. So I've seen him, called Berezkin. Either works in the situation. If you notice, the different spellings of his last name, that is why. But you can see, led his team to the championship over in the KHL. And now, the good news and the bad news regarding Maxim Berezkin. The bad news, he has decided to remain in Russia for one more season, but the plan is to come and try to the NHL next season. And also, some more good news. I mean, when it comes to, signing draft picks by a certain date there with the KHL in the NHL, there is no, transfer agreement there. So, the Oilers do hold his signing, his rights, I should say, signing rights, indefinitely there. So, they can wait as long as they can, but, sooner rather than later. You can see there a 5th round pick in 2020 there, so a hidden gem for the Oilers. You always love to see it there. They don't hit on too many of those, so it's nice to have one of those once in a while there. But since KHL deals often feature out clauses for players to leave for the NHL, there was some speculation that the Oilers could still reach a deal with Berezkin this summer. Instead, he'll spend another season developing his game with a championship caliber pro team before trying to crack Edmonton's roster in 2026-27 there. So he'll come over to the NHL, hopefully at 25 years old, ready to rip it up over in North America there. And you're asking, why doesn't he just go to Bakersfield? But playing in the American Hockey League on a minor league salary is a less attractive option than the KHL for somebody in Berezkin's position. I mean, he'd come over completely foreign to that, and he's good enough for the NHL, in my honest opinion there. So no sense for Berezkin to leave the KHL, where he's very comfortable there for, less money in the AHL with Bakersfield, and especially Bakersfield. Honestly, not that good, but with that in mind, there's really no rush to bring Berezkin to North America until the Oilers are confident he can contribute at the NHL level, and there's some runway to give him an opportunity there. And like I said, the Oilers would indefinitely hold on to Berezkin's rights, rights, whatever, with there being no transfer agreement between the KHL and the NHL. But the team clearly feels there's a player here who could impact their roster sooner rather than later. Edmonton's prospect pool is somewhat barren when it comes to players who could impact their NHL roster in the coming years, but Berezkin could certainly be one. As I mentioned, the Stan Bowman quote, when, he's trying to get Berezkin signed as soon as possible there, because the Oilers obviously know there's a player there, and myself included there. multiple highlights of Berezkin in the KHL. I mean, he uses his size very effectively. They're great skater, can shoot the puck. So, it'd be very nice to see him in the orange and blue, not next season, but the season thereafter. I mean, it'd be nice if he came over this summer, but honestly, yeah, you got to let a player like that marinate there. And when he comes over to the KHL or to the NHL, when he's ready, that is fantastic because you don't want another, Ilya Konovalov situation. The Oilers' Russian goaltending prospect came over to Bakersfield and felt like he was jerked around by the coaching staff, and then eventually the Oilers had to terminate, or they came to an agreement to terminate the contract for Konovalov, and then he went back to Russia there. So the Oilers learning from their mistakes, and we've seen this with other NHL teams where they're not in a rush to bring over, the Russian prospects there. Even with the current climate there, we've seen it happen before there. And I'm not saying I'm comparing him to this player, but I mean a guy like Kirill Kaprizov, spent so many years in the KHL after being drafted by the Minnesota Wild in 2015, stayed over in Russia for 5 years, and then came over to the NHL 24 years of age there. So I'm not saying, Berezkin is the same exact player as Kaprizov, but, there is a precedent there for teams waiting for those prospects to come over there. Now, with the Oilers trying to, get one of theirs to come over, it looks like they will be losing another one of their prospects there with Luca Munzenberger, the German defensive prospect for the Oilers. Looks like he's going back home to Germany as he signed a contract there with the Cologne Sharks, which is ironically enough, Leon Draisaitl's hometown there. So it looks like Luca Munzenberger will be out of the Oilers organization. And unfortunately, when it comes to, the KHL draft picks and the collegiate draft picks there for the Oilers, they do have a sign-by date there for Luca Munzenberger, August 15, 2025, and it looks like they will be losing his rights there, which is very unfortunate. I mean, when I watch the one Vermont college game just because it was on TV. Don't even know why it was on TV, but I watched it anyways because, they had Joel Mata, another Oiler prospect, in Luca Munzenberger. He had upside, but obviously the Oilers organization thought otherwise. Drafted 90th overall by Edmonton in 2021, Munzenberger spent the last 4 seasons playing Division I hockey in the NCAA at the University of Vermont, which was coached by Jay Woodcroft's brother there. I mean, there's some controversy with that, but that's a different story. The Dusseldorf native did not sign a contract with the Oilers and never attended a single rookie camp or main training camp in Edmonton there. You can see from top-down hockey there, a bit of an overreach there for the Oilers when it came to that 2021 draft. I mean, the 2020 and 21 draft years, very weird there, as most teams didn't really have anything to go off of with their picks. I mean, some teams, got away with it with, Y. Johnston and the Dallas Stars, but the Oilers obviously reached on Munzenberger, drafting him at 90th overall, and then top-down hockey, Patrick Bacon had him, almost ranked at 1500th. So yeah, I mean, overreach a little bit there, and you can see a 0% chance of becoming a star or an NHLer there. So the Oilers missing out on yet another draft pick. As I mentioned, played with the University of Vermont Catamounts. I forgot exactly what the team name was, but University of Vermont there. In his last season with Vermont, 31 games, played 12 points. I mean, he wasn't known for being, a point scorer, although, he had the tools in his game to provide that offensive upside, but the Oilers obviously didn't see like those would grow any more than they already have. And from Daniel Nugent-Hopkins of The Athletic said, I believe there was some consideration from the Oilers to giving Luca Munzenberger an AHL deal like Vincent Desharnais got out of college. When, Vincent Desharnais came out of, Providence College, Oilers did sign him to an AHL deal and eventually an NHL deal, but obviously they went a different direction. I don't think there was much interest other than that. I'm not surprised there was no deal signed, and for what it's worth, he was another Tyler Wright pick, and it looks like the Oilers are trying to shed all of the Tyler Wright picks off of this roster. There's him and Ken Holland. The draft record with the Oilers, not the strongest, as none of Edmonton's draft picks made from 2021 to 2024 have played in the NHL yet. Every other team has had at least one of its draft picks over that 4-year span reached the NHL, and in most cases, it's 3 or more. As you can see there, the 2023 draft, Bo Akey, Nathaniel Day, and Matt Capone haven't reached those whatsoever. And then, when you go on further down the years, most of these players aren't even with the Oilers organization anymore. As you can see there, the first rounder, Reed Schaefer, there traded to Nashville in the Matthias Ekholm trade. And then you go on further down to 2021 is the only prospect remaining from that draft class is Matvei Petrov, as the other five have been traded or just lost their drafting rights. So the Oilers not very good in the last couple years when it comes to drafting. I mean, you can cut the 2024 draft a little bit of slack there. I mean, Sam O'Reilly will most likely be an NHL player there. It just all remains to be unseen with the rest of them there. So the Oilers, trying to bolster the draft class with their new management, of course, with the Stan Bowman and Jeff Jackson and the rest of the scouting team for the Oilers there. When it comes to draft picks, the Oilers made a mistake with. I mean, Munzenberger was selected with Minnesota's pick as Edmonton traded down and they got the 2020 or the 22nd overall pick to select Xavier Bourgault in the 90th pick with Munzenberger. Meanwhile, Minnesota drafting Jesper Wallstedt with that pick. So the Oilers, in hindsight, not a very good selection there. Two selections, I should say, for that draft there. But as I mentioned, 2021, bit of a wacky draft year. When it comes to Munzenberger in the Oilers depth chart, I mean, several names ahead of him. I mean, Alec Regula, who is still somehow on the roster after the Oilers claimed him off waivers. No idea what he's doing. He's still hurt, apparently. And then Cam Dineen, Bo Akey, the recent free agents that they signed with Damien Carfagna and Atro Lepinen. And then their recent draft picks, there were Barnett, Fisher, Sandin Berry, and Yevseyev, who I've seen was a better prospect than Munzenberger there. So the Oilers, it's looking like a shallow prospect pool, but they're still prospects nonetheless. And over the summer, we will cover those. But that is it for today's video. Let me know down in the comments what you think about either prospect, either Berezkin, whatever, in Luca Munzenberger. Very curious to see what you all have to say in the comments there. But other than that, folks, enjoy your Saturday. I mean, weather-wise here, it's fantastic. So enjoy the sunshine, folks. I mean, even though we're covering hockey on the channel all summer long, sometimes it's nice to take a break. But that is it. Take care. Have a great rest of the day, folks. I'm Matt.